Hey, good morning, y'all. Josh's severe weather here, and we're still waiting on true winter. It has gotten chilly, but it is warm and muggy and murky out here in the southeast. We're getting a lot of rain and some coastal fog, and it's just not a nice day. And I'm sorry, folks, but it looks like this warm air is going to stick around at least another week, but some big changes are on the way. All right, so before we get started, did you guys hear about the three wise men? Apparently, one of them is a wise guy. But ching. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about this weekend, but next week, potentially a big weather maker here for those of us, especially in the central United States. But this is going to be a coast to coast storm. This is going to, what we believe, will be flipping the weather pattern from what's been unseasonably warm air in the southeast to much cooler weather as we head towards the 16th and 17th. So basically, the weekend after this one coming up. If you're traveling to the upper Midwest, the Rockies, be prepared. We are expecting significant, potentially blizzard conditions in the Dakotas, maybe Minnesota. A lot of that will depend on the exact track of what will be low pressure moving in on Monday and slowly moving through Tuesday and Wednesday. As warm air comes south from the Gulf, we are likely to see some severe weather. I think we will have some form of a tornado outbreak the second week here of December, probably starting overnight Monday night in the I-35 corridor, and then Tuesday and Tuesday night, possibly Wednesday morning. But at that point, when we get into Tennessee and Kentucky, I think the amount of wind shear and the dynamics start to decrease. So we're looking at maybe Tuesday as being the most active day next week. And then Wednesday into Thursday, potentially some heavy rain here in the southeast, which is the last thing we want to be dealing with as it's already been kind of a wet start to the month. In the Northeast, it is going to be cold. I am going to talk about maybe something to start the week or end this upcoming weekend here. After that moves out, it's cold, and then it starts warming up with this system, but it's going to turn cloudy and wet once again before the next wave of cold. So we're still waiting on potentially a big storm in the east, and I think we'll be waiting a little bit longer based on the upper level pattern. However, I'm going to take a look here pretty soon at what we may be taking a peek at here for late in the weekend, early next week, kind of an upfront, precursor to the next upcoming weather pattern. If you're in the West, it's been a cold, active month, but a lot colder with some very cold air coming down from Canada behind this storm. Fresh snowpack, lots of wind behind it. Skies clear out. It's going to be pretty darn cold here as we get into the second half of next week. Now, I did mention we are still looking at a storm that's going to be moving through here at the end of this week. I will say this better chance area is probably shifting more into this area north of Chicago. So looking at Iowa, Wisconsin, maybe parts of Michigan. When you get farther east, I think we could see a little bit of light snowfall Friday night, Saturday morning, but there is an area of high pressure that's kind of suppressing the moisture farther south and west. And unfortunately, if you're in DC, Virginia, Philly, New York, this is not your storm. If you're looking for snow, that is. It is going to be turning cooler this weekend, though, so we'll get a brief period of some drier weather here Saturday, early part of Sunday. However, there is a second storm to keep an eye on, so this area may not be out of the woods this weekend. Another storm that may try to form here by Sunday. And then that one has a little bit, I think, more potential when we get into coastal New England, the interior Northeast, as we head into maybe early next week. And I will show you all that. I'm trying to find my map for you guys. Actually, we'll look at tropical tidbits. All right, GFS model, not my favorite. That's okay, though. We're going to take a peek here at the predicted radar, and you'll see the first storm comes through the Great Lakes. This big high, though, is pushing southward, and it's going to send enough dry air down here Friday night, Saturday to kind of kill off what's coming east. Now, there is a stronger than previously forecasted kind of a blocking pattern in here in New England. And while this first storm kind of escapes, a second storm comes through. And as this block starts to retreat, we may actually see a better chance for some snow Sunday and Sunday night. The big question mark is what happens closer to the coast. And I'm going to do my best to answer that for you guys. If we look at the Canadian model, this one is a lot more aggressive with potential snow in the Hudson Valley, interior New England, and heavy rain at the coast. This is mainly going to be Sunday afternoon and Sunday night if this verifies. The GFS, of course, is not nearly as bullish, but it's something I'm going to be keeping an eye on. And tomorrow's video is going to look more into depth as to what to expect here. You'll notice, though, the weekend does improve on Saturday in the southeast, but another storm comes through on Sunday. Could be some rain, maybe even a little bit of thunder here in the Carolinas and down into Georgia, Alabama, and northern Florida. But we should start next week cooler and drier than certainly what we've seen as this low moves off the coast before it warms up. Here's our next storm, though. Kansas, Nebraska, eastern Colorado, Monday night. You can see getting a lot colder in the west, a lot of snow in the mountains. And then as we head further into the day on Tuesday, that warm air starts surging northward. We don't know exactly where this low will be centered and how quickly it's going to, what I call, eject out of the Rockies, but we do know that there's a good chance of a significant storm getting underway here either later Monday night or Tuesday morning, and maybe some severe weather coming with it. Now, this is the Canadian model. The GFS is going to, of course, differ from it, but it has the same storm. How far north it gets certainly comes into play here. GFS, as we all have seen, and I've gone on a few rants, is typically tracking storms farther north and west and everywhere else. That brings warmer air into play. Other models are farther south and west, which means more cold air into play here, and not raining in the Dakotas, but snowing. But you can see very heavy snow rates here Tuesday night into Wednesday. You'll also notice Tuesday night an area of active weather across parts of the mid and deep south. And this is the area I am concerned about for potential severe weather, and that does include tornadoes. As we get into Wednesday, you'll see high pressure takes control of the east. So while New England's going to be pretty darn cold to start the week, eventually we'll see some moderation. How much cold air is in place before this storm moves east could lead to maybe a little bit of overrunning and potentially some frozen precipitation, including ice here on Thursday, but it's going to be wet across the mid-Atlantic and southeast, and eventually Florida on Friday and Saturday. A wet weekend potentially for Florida, while the rest of the U.S. does turn colder. Rest of the central and eastern United States turns colder. And then next week looks like it's going to be drier and chillier to start, but we've got to watch the West Coast with cold air in place for perhaps some wintry weather getting farther south as we get to the week of the 20th or 19th and 20th. So that is from Tropical Tidbits. That's the GFS model. Severe weather right now, Monday at 6 a.m. Central to Tuesday at 6 a.m. Central, there is a risk for potentially severe weather. I have a feeling the Storm Prediction Center could end up being a little bit quick with this. I think maybe as we get into the day Tuesday, maybe a better chance. You can see they expand their area of severe weather potential farther south and east into Louisiana, Mississippi, and Arkansas. I think looking at, generally speaking, where the low pressure is going, that risk could get farther off to the north and east into places like Paducah, Owensboro, Kentucky overnight, Cairo, Illinois, Cape Girardeau, into the Boot Heel in this area here, which is known for having December tornadoes, unfortunately. When we get farther on into the week here, Wednesday and Thursday, the severe weather chance is going to lessen, but the heavy rain threat continues in the southeast. The PNA, I have mentioned this is what we're looking for a flip to cold. The blue is a control that's kind of a wilder solution, whereas the mean is maybe more kind of middle of the road. You can see, though, it is trending back towards neutral. If it goes positive, then we've got a good chance of much colder weather dropping into the southeast. You can see some models show that happen, or some members show that happening, others don't. But the trend is starting to get a little bit more favorable, at least for colder weather in the east. And even if it does stay a little below zero, it doesn't mean we can't have a winter storm in the east and especially the southeast. So that's something I'll be watching for you guys. The upper air chart shows this big storm dropping down here. This is Friday. Big ridge of high pressure over the southern U.S., but you can see colder air lurking off the east coast here over the weekend. And you'll see this big storm drops into the southwest. This is Monday night and Tuesday, and develops into a stronger upper level system here Tuesday night. And looking at this area where the blues and the yellows meet is where the area of severe weather is most likely. Strong winds aloft, wind shear. I do think we are going to have tornadoes. Tough to say if they'll be strong at this point, but certainly something I'm going to be watching here. And then as this upper low lifts north and east, we get a big snow across the upper Midwest. We've got milder air coming into the eastern U.S. after a cold start to the week, and lots of rain in between the two before a colder pattern takes over here at the end of the week into next weekend around the 17th and 18th. And how blue this stays is going to determine how much chilly weather we continue to have. But I think the week of the 19th is definitely colder across most of the United States. And then the big question mark is, do we get a storm that can link up with that cold air and produce some winter weather before Christmas? And I think the chances are better than they have been the last several years. But again, I am not going to make that call yet. It's just way too soon for that. Let's take a look here at the temperatures on the European model real quick. You'll see it's turning colder over the weekend. And then starting to moderate here, a lot of mild air surging northward. This is Tuesday and Wednesday ahead of our system. And then it starts to cool right back down. Much colder weather moving into the central United States. Here's the central US. You guys can see it's mild. We definitely have some ingredients in place here for severe weather, warmer and more humid. Much colder air behind it, big contrast in between the two, and then turning much colder with single digits possible here at the end of the week. And I think this could end up being even colder in this area and here, depending on how much snow falls. We'll take a look at wind. This is Monday, big wind coming out of the southwest. And by Monday night, Tuesday, ahead of our storm, we could have significant wind gusts of 40 to 50 miles per hour. And then especially as this storm gets cranking in Minnesota and Wisconsin, very windy as well in parts of the mid-Mississippi Valley, with severe weather certainly a possibility. And then I did want to show you guys, because this is important, this week, last year, we saw a major tornado outbreak with a powerful tornado from Arkansas to Kentucky. This setup here is kind of in the same place. I don't think it's going to be quite as intense. I really hope not anyway. But just to show you guys, this weather pattern we had a year ago is starting to repeat itself, unfortunately. So we're going to keep an eye on this area here as we get into Tuesday next week. That would be the 13th. This happened on the 11th, and then a few days later, we had another storm behind it that tracked up into Iowa and brought a lot of tornadoes and very intense wind. I don't see a second storm like this one following on the heels of it 3, 4, 5 days later. But just want to let you guys know the middle of December is kind of another secondary peak in severe weather across the central and southern United States. So this happened last year. Will it happen again this year? I don't think at this magnitude, but something I'm definitely concerned about. Hey, I appreciate everybody's time. Thanks for swinging by. Please like and subscribe. Invite some friends to come watch. I'm going to keep you guys posted with pretty much daily content, videos, 6 days a week. And of course, updates on my Facebook page, facebook.com/JoshSevereWeather. Appreciate y'all's time today. Have a great week. Be safe and enjoy the weather. Talk soon.